It's a new year, which means it's the perfect time to look back at last year and see how the experts did on their predictions for 2023. Find out more on this edition of the Video Market Update. So now that we're in a new year, it's a perfect time to pause and to look back. If you remember, about this time last year, I had read through about 8 to 10 investment management, mutual fund, bank analysts predictions or forecasts for what they expected to happen in 2023. So let's quickly look back on what some of those predictions were and see how they turned out. The biggest is every single firm, every single investment company predicted some sort of recession. Now, they didn't say how long, they didn't say how major, but what they all said is some minor or moderate recession. All of them were wrong, as we technically did not have a recession in 2023. The next big item that they were focused on was our GDP growth, our gross domestic product. And most predicted that we would have somewhat sluggish growth between 0.5% and 1.5%. As of the end of the third quarter, we were up about 3%, so more than double. In Q1, we were up 2.2, in Q2, we were up 2.1, and in Q3, we were up 4.9. So certainly we need to see how the fourth quarter would have ended, but certainly that is going to be a forecaster prediction that is quite off, as GDP was double the expectation. The next number was unemployment. Unemployment was somewhere in the 4.5% to 5% range. Where did we end up, at least at the end of November? At 3.7. So again, substantially different than what was the expectation. The fourth was inflation, and this is where the analysts were fairly close, in some cases right on the money. They predicted inflation would be somewhere between 2.9 and 3.1. At the end of November, we were at 3.1. So we'll give them credit and applaud them for getting that number correct. The next number that most were wildly off of is how the S&P 500 would end the year and what the returns would be for the year. So two of the investment research reports that I read through, and again, these are from the largest, most well-respected investment funds, banks, mutual fund companies there were, predicted the S&P 500 would end at 3,900, but most came with the average or the idea that the S&P would end at 4,400 to 4,500. Well, at the end of the year, the S&P was at over 4,700. They predicted the returns would be somewhere in the 5 to 8% range. The S&P ended more than 24% in the positive. So if you look at these reports, they were pretty far off of what ended up happening to what they were forecasting. So now the question is, well, what's the point of reading them for 2024 if they were so far off? Because it helps us to see where the market is expecting to go, where they believe the economy will go, and then we can make decisions based on that information, but most importantly, based on an information that works for you and for your household and your individual situation. So interesting to look back, and the next video will look forward. If you have any questions though on this video, let me know. If not, as always, I hope you make it a great week.